Welcome to my first video presentation. As a CE trainer myself, I have witnessed several changes for the past 7 years since I've been teaching the program. The first changes was the effects from the budget cut that reduced our training hours from 800 hours to 600 hours. And the second changes was the push for us as a trainer to use technology in our classroom, but without giving us any additional training. As we all have been taken by the industry expert that we all know how to use technology in our classroom teaching. And now we are facing the undebatable challenge as we all have to switch our face-to-face training mode to a distant mode learning overnight because of the global pandemic. Therefore, the purpose of this presentation, I would like to introduce a framework that is called TPACK to help us to better integrate technology in our classroom teaching. And hopefully, by the end of this presentation, I will help you to answer our $1 million question, that is, what would be the most effective way to teach our students those 5 core skills that has been set in the ACSF within the shorter hours. Now, before I move on to the TPACK itself, I will have a look at what technology is. Now, what exactly is technology? When I think of technology, because I have been out of touch for a while now, I see technology as those tools that we might have in our classroom if we were lucky, like the desktop computer, the laptop computers, the DVD player, the data projector, interactive whiteboards, and those flashy mobile phones that we carry with us everywhere, and the internet itself. But through my readings and the research I have done to prepare myself for this presentation, technology is not just those tools that I just have mentioned, but they are actually more crucial than that. They are actually the fundamental structured system that uses to support both the teaching and the learning itself. Technology is actually infused classroom with digital learning tools mentioned above, and to increase students' engagement and motivation. On top of that, it can link teachers to their students and to professional content, resources, and systems to help them improve their own instruction and personalized learning. Now, before we go any further, let's go back to our basics to remind ourselves why we have chosen our profession as a CE trainer in the first place. CE program is an Australian government-initiated program. It has been designed to provide language literacy and numeracy training to eligible job seekers to help them to participate more effectively in the training and in the labor force. All students' learning outcomes are reported against the ACSF, which is set for them. And the ACSF is a tool which assists both specialist and non-specialist English language literacy. ACSF is a tool which assists both specialist and non-specialist English language literacy and numeracy. It provides a consistent national approach to identifying and developing the core skills in 3 diverse contexts. One is being the personal and community context. 2 is being workplace and employment context. And 3rd, education and training context. CE trainers describe students' performance in the 5 core skills. ACSF provides a rich, detailed pictures of real-life performance in the 5 core skills. 1 is learning, 2, reading, 3, writing, 4, oral communication, 5, the numeracy skill. These skills are essential for individuals to participate effectively in our society. They are fundamentally important parts in our lives. being directly or indirectly linked to the physical, social, and economic well-being of individuals. Workplace productivity and safety, community interaction and capacity, and ultimately to Australians' economics and community well-being. The ACSF reflects contemporary use of English in Australia. There are three key theoretical underpinnings and approaches behind the ACSF framework. One is being a socio-linguistic and socio-constructivist, where it views of the core skill as complex social practice embedded in the context and influenced by purpose, audience, and contextual expectation and convention. The social constructivism is a variety of cognitive constructivism that emphasize the collaboration nature of much learning. Social constructivism was developed by post-revolutionary Soviet psychologist Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky believed that all cognitive functions originated in and must therefore be explained as a product of social interaction, and that learning did not simply comprise the assimilation and the accommodation of new knowledge by learners. It was the process of which learners were integrated into a knowledge community. Two is the theory of adult learning, including a recognition that core skills are best learned within a context that the adult learner perceived to be relevant and important. Now, for this area, if you needed more information, you can visit Broomfield and Burns and Knowles, which I have provided the link. And three is the view of learning, reading, writing, speaking, listening, and numeracy is interactive, constructive process of making meanings, in which individuals can be seen to assume four roles: code breaker, text participants, text user, and text analyst. Again, you can follow the link to visit Luke, Freebody, and Johnson in this area of detail. Now let's have a look at the TPACK framework. TPACK is a theory and a framework that was developed to explain the set of knowledge that teacher needs to teach their students a subject, teach effectively, and use technology, which is now widely used as a framework for education technology integration. The framework is an extended work of Schumann's idea attempting to identify the nature of knowledge required by teachers for technology integration in their teaching while addressing the complex, multifaceted, and situated nature of teachers' knowledge. CK is the content knowledge, what to teach, teachers' knowledge about the subject matter to be learned or taught. The content to be covered in the mainstream IEC, for example, in their ESL classroom would be different from the contents that would be covered in our SEE classroom. Schumann note that this knowledge would include knowledge of concept, theory, ideas, organizational frameworks, knowledge of evidence and proof, as well as established practices and approaches towards developing such knowledge. PK is the pedagogical knowledge, how to teach. This would be the teacher's deep knowledge about the processes and practices or the methods of teaching and learning itself. They incorporate, among other things, overall the educational purposes, values, and aims. This generic form of knowledge applies to understanding how student learns, general classroom management skill, lesson planning, and the student assessment. TK is the technology knowledge, What tools to use in teaching? This would be the knowledge about certain ways of thinking about and working with technology, tools, and resources. This includes understanding information technology broadly enough to apply it productively at work and in everyday life. Being able to recognize when technology can assist or delay achievement of a goal, being able to continuously adapt to changes in information technology. TPK is the pedagogical content knowledge. This is where the PK, technology knowledge, and the PK, pedagogical knowledge, meets. It is parallel to Schumann's idea of knowledge of pedagogy that is applicable to the teaching of specific contents. Central to Schumann's conceptualization of PCK is the notion of the transformation of the subject matters for teaching. According to Schumann, this transformation occurs as the teacher interprets the subject matter, find multiple ways to represent the subject, able to adapt and tailor the instructional materials to alternative conceptions and students' prior knowledge. TCK is the technology contents knowledge. It is an understanding of the matter in which technology and contents influence and compel one another. Teachers need to master more than the subject matter they teach. We as a SEE trainer must develop a deeper understanding of the matter of how the technology applications can change the contents we teach. For example, when we teach the student to write an application letter for a job vacancy, we will have to decide which specific technologies are best suited. Is it better to use email directly, or is it best to use word processing application to construct the letter and then attach it to the email? Now we have TPK. This is the technological pedagogical knowledge. This is an understanding of how teaching and learning can change when particular technologies are used in a certain way. This includes knowing the pedagogical benefits and limitations of a range of technological tools as they're related to disciplinary and development that is appropriately to serve pedagogical designs and strategy. Now the TPACK, the technological pedagogical contents knowledge. This is the end product, the middle, where everything comes together. It is the basis of effective teaching with technology, requiring an understanding of the presentation of concepts using technologies, pedagogical technique that use technologies in constructive way to teach contents, knowledge of what makes concepts difficult or easy to learn, and how technology can help to ease some of the problems that students face, knowledge of students' prior knowledge and theories of learning, and knowledge of how technologies can be used to build on existing knowledge to develop new learnings or strengthen the old ones. Now let's have a look at how we can use TPACK in our SEE classroom. We are going to use the TPACK to enhance the ACSF framework's target outcome within the 600 hours by integrating technologies into our teaching and learning activities. Now, because our training delivery is already activity type based, it is already promoting communicative skills among our students. Integrating technology in our classroom will enhance our teaching and will allow us to train our students to be more independent and to take risks in using technological devices, and gradually they will become a self-directed learner in the near future. Here are some examples of what we can do for our classroom. Here we have writing activities covering the ACSF 3 domain of communication. If you have a look at the table closely, The first column is labeled as ACSF domain of communication, and the second column is being the activity or the contents, which also labeled as CK plus TKs, which become TCK and what is going to be taught. And the third column is how is it going to be taught, or also labeled as PTK plus CK, and it becomes PCK. And the last column is where we have to decide what technology or tools we can use to accommodate the learning and the teaching itself, which is PTK. Now let's have a look at the first activity. This activity is getting the student to write a letter, which is the TCK. Now let's have a look at the PCK itself, is how we're going to teach the student. Here you will ask the student to write a letter in response to the prompt that you give them. For example, a letter to a family member, a letter of complaint, and the last column, of course, is where we label as PPPK, or the possible technological tools that we have to choose to enhance our teaching and the students' learning. So an example here, I have put down word processing and the email. Now we have the second activities under the workplace and employment domain of communication. Now, what we're going to teach the student is for the student to write a message for a colleague or a supervisor, which is the TCK. And then how are we going to teach the student is where the PCK comes into about. Here, you will ask the student to send a short SMS text to a colleague or a supervisor to ask for his or her working roster. And the best tools or technological tools that accommodate these learning and teaching activities would be the mobile phone device. And for the third activities is for you to teach the student writing a recount. That's the contents. And as for the PCK, is how you're going to teach them. What we're going to do here is for you to ask the student to write a recount inspired by their personal experience or a cultural topic. And lastly, the TPK is where the technology comes into the lesson. Here, I would suggest using the desktop computer or the laptop computer and using the word processing application as the technological tools to accommodate the teaching and the learning. Now, that's the end of my first video presentation. I hope you have found it helpful. I also have sent out a copy of the feedback form for you to fill it out and send back to me, please. Any feedback will be greatly appreciated, and I will use your feedback to improve my next presentation. And thank you for your time.